Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to Race 1 between Penguin8r and riversmccown. I'm Alicel, and I'm joined here by my co-commentator, Antadale. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this race of two veritable titans in the free enterprise community, as well as the vanilla speedrunning community for Final Fantasy.
Yes, as you said, two titans, I believe number 2 and number 3 on the vanilla speedrun board.
Yeah, and two very well-known, very strong players of the game of free enterprise. Penguin8r is the reigning champion of the Highway to the Zenith Zone, and riversmccown has written many guides to this game. So definitely looking forward to seeing lots of very small time saves that each runner will probably be making. We'll see a lot of running away from encounters, a lot of in-encounter menuing as bosses are crumbling or fading away, just to save seconds of time.
Yeah, we are going to see some very high-level play tonight. And what are we looking forward to in regards to our objectives? Anything you want to see tonight?
I kind of like to see them have to scramble to find stuff in weird places. So either a whole bunch of boss hunts or a whole bunch of character checks that maybe have them needing the only copy of a couple different characters. How about you, Alicel? What are you feeling like you'd like to see tonight?
Well, I'm always in for required music or a required demystic package.
Yeah, those are pretty fun and trolly. And of course, it would be a good stretch of both these runners' abilities if we're forced to go down the hook route with only two characters.
Yeah, hook route with only two, especially if they're not two of your strongest, can trip up most players, actually.
Yeah, there can be some awfully rude combinations on a hook route, so it'd be kind of nice just to see these runners have to stretch a little bit, get out of a little bit of a comfort zone, maybe show us some strats that we haven't really seen before.
And for those joining us, there is a change from last week's races. These will be best of 3 now going forward. So you can see on the tracking screen, there's these little yongs. They will light up based on the number of wins.
And Gambit, our tracker, doing a wonderful job of showing off those lit up yongs. Rivers with the last minute name change, keeping with the King of the Hill theme.
And our runner showing us that we are going to have a Sid start.
Yeah, so I would be not surprised at all to see some pretty aggressive play. Sid, if they can get an axe, can pretty much take out even the Baron Inn spot. And Rivers is well known for if he has a pretty good party and has a different route underground for skipping Fabul, so we'd not be surprised if we see that.
And with a free magma key, I can definitely see us skipping Fabul until we get a pan.
Yeah, might check it just to get 2 checks out of the 1 trip, but definitely gonna not do Fabul in the immediate roundup. We do have Rydia also as our other starting character, so we could see a quick check of Mount Hobbs, see what a free summon is available there.
Yeah, even though she's not that powerful in regards to her damage output, a good summon can really push her forward.
Well, those are dudes pretty fast. I saw Kane, I saw Launch the Falcon.
Cure the fever with the sand ruby.
Get Edge, and we do see Kane there in the Baron Inn.
and then conquer the Crystal Sword Altar. So no specific boss checks tonight.
No, and not that many key items required either. And I'm noticing some decent things out of Penguin8r's looting of Damsian. We saw a karate robe, which will be a little bit of bonus to strength, as well as a dwarf axe, which will help him back row glitch both Kane and Sid.
And unfortunately, seeing one of our freer bosses in the waterway, so not going to be able to see that boss later on in a harder spot.
And only a mage summon off of Ordeals. It's not one, or off of Hobbs. It's not one our runners are generally looking for out of there. Ooh, and there was also a guy drum out of Damsian too. That's very nice.
And not too much available here on or West Hobbs, but at least you have the knowledge.
You have the knowledge, and with the radio opening the way, it makes it a little bit more likely that you're going to go up and check it that way rather than have to go walk all the way from East Hobbs back down. And there is a Palom.
And a Lilith Rod, kind of a little bit of a starter kit for him.
We should see some of these lit ones coming out. Odin being especially weak to lightning.
And meanwhile, Rivers is giving us a check of Antlion.
And Penguin8r is through, getting all of the level 2 spells for Palom, and a nice use of the Vampire to make sure that Palom survive too. The Vampire being one of those J items that we have in Final Fantasy IV for Enterprise that were removed from the US release of the base game. And that one is a single target cast of essentially Drain that should net you about 400 to 700 damage as well as healing based on the magic defense of the spot you're using it against.
And we did see Rivers pick up an Asura summon for his Rydia. If we don't see ourselves getting a white mage, that can definitely be some sort of healing for the Zeromus fight.
Yeah, a good 2/3 chance of a full party heal, and then 1/3 chance of a full party resurrection. And that is a Mist Dragon at the bottom of the Antlion Cave. In this particular flag set, that is a free extra key item check, so we often refer to this as a bonus round.
And I'm sure our runners are excited to see her very early. That way they know they don't have to do any extra checks of either the Luca Cave or either of the giant locations.
Yeah, we might see Rivers go immediately from here to Mist Village and also do a Kaipo Sand check. There's a hook. So that is the key item we were required to launch the Falcon.
And does give us another character check as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rivers uses the exit item that he'd found here in Antlion just to immediately escape here. We'll see if maybe he might have wanted that to check the hook character.
And as you said, going straight to Mist. Going to check and see what Mama Rydia has for us today. And take a look at some of these item shops.
Yeah, and knowing that we have an Edge in the Seed picking up an Ice Claw in case we have to fight a Rubicant somewhere.
And we see a package giving us another opportunity for a character.
Yeah, along with the hook, it's the first opportunities we have to possibly pick up Edge, because both Edge and Fusuya are required to be gated behind key items, and there is Edge, so possibly required package, and he's definitely going to do that check and get Edge immediately.
Yeah, with that Edge, that's going to kind of open up most of the early game. He comes in at 25, level 25, and can put out some pretty nice damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we might have seen a Mute Dagger somewhere as well, which is a very nice weapon for Edge to have. Both is better than the short swords that he comes with and gives him extra wisdom for his spells, as well as hits mage type enemies a little bit harder. And I know I always like to see Edge early because he is a much nicer anchor character for the overworld, since he's actually much faster than the bosses and hits very hard. Definitely speeds you through some of the overworld check.
And just makes those checks much easier. At this point, I would think that the Baron Inn is just free.
Yeah, especially if we find any sort of boomerang or full moon to back row glitch Edge, because he can get beat up a little bit by a particularly strong physical boss in the Baron Inn. An evil wall can make you come back.
And we'll see what boss is hiding here in the package.
That's one of the friendliest places for Pain Man to show up.
And with Sid having so much health, he shouldn't have any problems getting through this. Or he can just kill him. That's fine too.
I guess Rivers does not want to hear a speech today. I don't blame him. It's a little bit slow.
And with that, riversmccown has completed objective number 3.
And of course, when you do come here this way and have to go to the bed in the inn, the old lady is going to trap you unless you kind of stare her down and make her retreat.
She is definitely the meanest of the NPCs in this game.
There have been an awful lot of karate ropes too at the seat. I think that's the 3rd one, and that's a foo in bed. So free seat.
Yeah, that's a required foo because we have to cure him with the sand ruby.
Now I wonder if you do a quick check down in the hook route just to see if you can get a foo that way too.
And that also means that you do have some sort of white mage healing for your Zeromus fight.
Yeah, absolutely. If we get a right amount of Berserkers, or we get Rydia and Palom up to sufficient levels to where they can dish out some nukes, Fu can definitely hold serve on a pretty short Zeromus fight with healing.
And it looks like penguin8r is heading back to Baron, possibly looking to get his cane.
And we see both runners have moved Edge to the middle slot, again, because he is faster than the bosses in the overworld, pretty much. We saw that for Rivers, Odin didn't even get a shot off.
And Rivers is hot on Penguin8r's heels, heading to go pick up his cane. And Ruby just melts with one hit from Edge.
Yeah, it doesn't even get a chance to say, was it Flame? It's kind of, was it Gargle?
And we see Mom Bomb in the second spot. Kind of rude, as she'll go into her explode phase, but I believe they both still have that Gaia drum.
Yeah, we definitely see it in Penguin8r's in for he kind of hangs out here, waits to see if Radiant might die. Although it doesn't really matter because there's no XP available in this spot. Looks like he's gonna decide to save that Gaia drum for some more troublesome bosses, since Flame is able to clear up all of the bombs left over. Diffuse the situation a little bit.
And does pick up an hourglass too for his troubles, so while not a key item, it is always nice to have an hourglass on hand for some of the free bosses. You can stop them and work on getting some life glitches off.
Yeah, we'll use it for maybe the Dark Imps, like Hypo Guards, or the Baron Guards. Or maybe use it for a grind later, too. Rivers is also through, just a few seconds behind.
And both our runners have now completed their first objective as well.
Yeah, so under 15 minutes, we have underground access, we have 2 of our 5 objectives down, and we know that we're going to get a Fusi at the end of the seed.
And we also have a full party as well.
Yeah, so our hopes for a nasty hook round entirely dashed, both by the immediate, here's a vacuum key to and just by the seed being very generous with all the characters early.
Now at this point, where do you go, Antidale?
I probably go check the Fame Arch, get its free chest, see if maybe that's a pan, and then go visit Sheila, or visit Young underground, and then go up to Fabul to kind of get those 2 key item checks out right away. And of course, a little bit of hunting underground for Cursed Ring and some of the item shops here, and some of the better loot is also a pretty good idea that we see Penguin8r do.
And Penguin8r not speaking to Temp Job Dwarf.
No, we saw Rivers skip his normal extra Todd smells check too, so both these runners know that they don't really have even seconds to spare against each other. Rivers getting some good information that there's an evil wall on the Calbrina spot. That is not a happy spot for evil wall, at least early. It's going to hit very hard and move pretty fast. And here we see Rivers taking advantage of knowing that there's one trap chest here, which means that you get even better loot than normal for a gated behind a key item check. So he's doing some quick looting, getting a little bit better stuff, because our runners don't get great loot in general, and definitely want a little extra money out of this flag set, since stuff only sells for a quarter of the normal price, rather than half.
And does get a couple of shields for his troubles. And gets a tower key in the free chest.
And a Dragon Whip isn't too bad for Rydia if we ever need to have her attack things. That Self Summon's not bad either, but it might be kind of already too late.
And we see Rivers pick up a cursed ring in the armor shop here in the Fey March.
And Rivers actually checking this very rarely found item shop or weapon shop here in the Fey March. I sometimes forget you can buy weapons here.
It is a pain to get to.
And Penguin are also checking out the armor shop and the item shop.
And we see some dolls here in the Fey March and an antlion.
Yeah, both runners are probably going to stay away from that antlion for a very, very long time.
And Rivers finding one of the, I believe, 6 trap chests here in the Self Cave.
Yep. And had definitely done a save before because he knows that there's a pretty good chance of getting one of those encounters right away. Now, if you can get Palom up to Quake and maybe get him a little bit of extra magic attack, with that curse ring, that chest actually becomes free. With the correct agility shenanigans, you can make Palom's Quake go off before any of those ghosts actually get a chance to attack you.
I always hold my breath when I see runners attempt that with 1 HP on all of their characters.
It's definitely a little nerve-wracking the first few times you do it, but both these runners also are very, very well adept at rod buffering, so I'm sure both would be able to do it quite easily.
And we'll see if Sheila is holding on to the goods tonight. But first we'll go ahead and free Fabul.
We've got a mad doctor attacking Fabul this evening.
And with that hammer equipped, Sid doing lots of damage.
Yeah, Sid just loves wrecking Machine's plans for world domination. We see Penguin8r picking up a stack of Ether 1s out of Silvera.
And we get a rat tail from the King of Fabul. We've already got our hooks, so that'll be a very easy check.
It will, and would route pretty well into maybe a character check if they want to down in the hook route.
And Sheila giving music.
Sheila definitely wants chat and the people to be happy today. We'll see if either runner listens to that siren call or not, though.
I could see our runners putting that off for a little bit longer.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff I would be more inclined to do rather than music, although this party would be able to do it pretty easily and quickly.
And we have a Baron key behind the rat tail.
We see over on Penguin8r's side, he both got a little extra dialogue out of the Doctor than Rivers did, and is knocked over his Rydia, so might be looking at keeping Rydia down for an anchor for the endgame, or maybe for a possible slingshot.
Does manage to take out Dr. Lugay before he changes and kind of poisons the whole party.
Yeah, it definitely cuts down on some dialogue, and although it wouldn't matter here, but prevents you from having to have that poison walk effect.
And both of these runners knowing very well what chests are considered higher tier, which ones to check and which ones to not.
Yeah, I think we're getting near the end of them checking most chests that even run across their path. We're probably going to start seeing them skipping chests even that they're walking directly next to, unless they're in a particularly high tier location. Or they're desperate for a little more cash. Rivers finally decides the cane's worth doing a little bit of menuing for, and gives him the back row glitch as well as equipping him with an ice brand. Meanwhile, Penguin8r picks up his Baron key.
And Rivers is heading down to take the first boss of Baron, who is one of the Mylon variants.
Either way, we're going to help him get his Z's.
I think somebody has been taking tips from Baka.
I will admit to a little bit of inspiration from watching the previous race, which is still going. But one flame from Edge makes very short work of Mylon's friends, and then it looks like we might get a jump and a shuriken, which might end it all. Not quite yet. Meanwhile, Penguin8r is going to go look at that evil wall.
I would be surprised if he doesn't. It looks like he is going to go ahead and give it a shot.
Yeah, if you can get through this fight, and then the next one should be pretty easy, then you get an awful lot of experience points, which can accelerate you through the rest of the season.
evil wall, just kind of taking down the kids.
Yeah, those punches are coming out pretty fast and pretty hard. 300 or so a shot.
And we see a monk has usurped the throne.
You know, for all the times that he had to defend Fabul against Baron, this feels very nice.
And penguin8r does take a reset to the door and heads to Baron himself.
Yeah, that's just a little bit more of a check than this party can handle right now. Even though we've got Edge equipped with a long sword as well as a mute dagger, and Kane has at least an ice brand for both runners, still just not a lot of damage output, especially not to deal with that evil wall.
And both are runners fighting the biggest boss here in Free Enterprise, the menu and inventory.
Yeah, I lose that fight with that inventory boss pretty constantly.
And we see a Rosa, which means we do have a proper white mage for this seed.
We have both a proper white mage and knowledge of all 7 available characters. Looks like Rydia's going to go take a seat on the bench for Rivers. And Invenerable in chat noting that penguin8r took a little moment to actually do some stacking of items within that discard menu, which is kind of a nice, clever time save if you needed to stack up cure potions or other things you had purchased without having to go find the sort button all the way down to the bottom of the inventory.
And only a protect ring down in the trash can.
And Camille Donhofta in chat asking who the starting characters were. It was Sid as the starter with Rydia as the companion. We have check out the Odin spot looks like. And that protect ring would actually be pretty nice against the evil wall. We'll keep at least one of your characters up and standing much longer than they would have normally. And Rose is going to be happy with that samurai bow picked up out of the pot if we get a chance to keep it.
And I looked away for a second. I didn't even see what boss that was.
That was Asura there, so gonna nope out of that real quick.
Yeah, that might be a little too much for this team at this point.
Yeah, if you can get Rosev to blink though, that'll become pretty easy. With Edge already equipped with a mute dagger to do extra damage to her as a mage type.
And we see Rivers heading up Mount Ordeals. Another easy check, although it does have 3 bosses and only 1 key item.
It does indeed. This party has gotten some pretty good levels. We might see Edge move back to the middle here instead of having Rosa there. But nope, looks like Edge is going to stay at the top. And there is a turtle that won't punch very hard and doesn't have a whole lot of hit points. So this is a good place for our runners to see the turtle.
Yeah, seeing in here instead of the Lunar Dragon spot is always a relief. And as our tracker Gambit points out, we do know Fu is required, so this is just more bosses to get him more spells.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Penguin8r is well known for favoring mage teams over melee teams, so him ditching Sid is not too much of a surprise to keep that Rosa. It gives him 2 black mages and a white mage on the team.
Well, and if they can find that sand ruby quickly, or find an alternate Fu who has weak, some additional grind options become available, and it becomes much easier to get all of the nuke casters.
Yeah, Penguin8r has done a good job of keeping Rydia taking a nap throughout the seed so that she doesn't get levels to which it would make it harder for her to slingshot. Since she's the main concern about getting out to endgame caster levels, it requires about 1 million experience points for her to learn nuke, where Palom learns it noticeably soon. I don't remember exactly offhand what it is, but it's at least 100,000 experience points less than that 1 million mark for Rydia.
And Penguin8r hot on River's heels, also going up Mount Ordeals. And a question in chat on the different palettes. They are completely cosmetic. They are made by our resident artist, Scala Kitty, to kind of add some more fun and fab to the randomizer.
I think each character has about 11 palettes. It might be 13. I don't remember exactly the number, but I know it's more than 10. Are themed, like everyone has a goth palette, and then the twins have some palettes that reference each other, and there's a nice pan at the top of Ordeal.
And we see Ogo Pogo here at the top of Ordeals as well. Another character you like to see here rather than up on the moon.
Yeah, River's able to take down Ogo Pogo with Ogo not even getting off a single of that big wave. So starts the fight at full power, ends the fight at full power. Now, do you think River's going to use that pan immediately and go do another couple key item check?
I would think so, with the prospect of that Fu kind of just hanging out. If they can find that sand ruby quickly, it's kind of game over for all the bosses here on Earth.
And I think we've done about 10 bosses so far too, so that Fu will come nearly fully powered.
And for those who are not as familiar with the randomizer, when we say Fu will be fully powered, we actually have a flag on that kind of nerfs him a little bit, but for every boss that you kill, he gets an additional 3 spells and 100 hit points.
Yeah, and those spells are usually weighted towards him getting better spells later. So Nuke is weighted a little bit to come near the end, where like Cure 1 and Fire 1 are weighted to generally come earlier. Although definitely that's just randomizer weighting, so there's no guarantee about any spells coming in any particular order. That is a very nice ninja sword for Edge.
It's not very often in a seed where you get swords and the ninja that can use them in the same time.
No, not at all. So the seed continues to be generous. I'm waiting for the rug to get pulled out from our runner's feet. So I'm not even sure that we have any particularly mean bosses left to go to that vanilla crystal sword altar.
And Sheila once again giving the goods with a darkness crystal.
That is a nice find. That is definitely required. So we had our required ordeals. That puts us to 9 key items if I'm counting correctly.
And Rivers is immediately going to raise his lunar whale.
Okay, do you think we're going to get an immediate character check on the moon?
Absolutely. There's just, again, that foo can make your grind extremely easy now that you have the darkness crystal.
And Zilch and chat asking if either runners checked the hook character. They have not. Penguin8r just following River's footsteps can still. A little bit slower through a couple of bosses and actually bothering to try and fight the evil wall. That put him probably, a minute or so behind?
Very true, probably about a minute. But I could see both of our runners feeling a little bit behind with just how easy everything has been and how everything's been handed to them.
Yeah, and both runners knowing that the other is very, very good at this game. Knowing you don't really have a whole lot of chances to slip up and make any mistake. And Camille Donhofta in chat asking if the Crystal Sword Altar is the place where the final dungeon where you find Cecil's Crystal Sword. It is indeed. It's the place where Wyvern normally hangs out.
And Rivers, only seeing a Rosa, immediately resets back to Earth.
And we've seen that a couple of times now from Rivers, where he'll go check the moon character but save beforehand and reset back down if that character is not one that he's looking for in his party. Probably overall a little bit of a time save for not having to fly the whale back down, but does cost you a little bit of time for just flying up and checking the character and then having to redo the character's cutscene.
And he did come over here by Silvera, where his hovercraft is. I wonder if we are going to see that character check at the hook route, or even just clearing out the hook route at this point.
Yeah, definitely some clearing out of the inventory there, selling a bunch of stuff he doesn't need. And that is a good point that I hadn't really thought about, since they have to do the hook route anyway. Maybe waiting until they're able to feel confident and able to doing the bosses here is a strategy both runners are doing it. Or he's just going to fake us out and go do the Twin Harp.
Chat would definitely appreciate a Twin Harp check. And Lady in Red kind of trolling us and making it very difficult for him to get out.
But does give Rivers an opportunity to go check that weapon shop and both find a middle blade and a boomerang. So Edge can now be back row glitched, and we'll have two weapons that are better and have a middle blade to go with the longsword and the Murasame that he has. So I'm not quite sure why he bought the middle blade with the Murasame already in his hands.
And Rivers did troll chat and went ahead and it looks like going to head down to the hook route.
I mean, they could have just been an intended shopping trip and trolling chat, just a nice side benefit.
And we find some cabins there on the moon. Definitely a good pickup.
And a ninja blade and a ninja shirt in the Evelyn Castle, or in the Evelyn Cave.
And exits and illusions here in the shop.
Yeah, that is a very nice Evelyn Cave so far. Penguin8r picking up his Rosa and deciding to keep the cutscene as being already viewed, not having to do it again.
And there is our Moon Man here in the underground route.
Yeah, so that sand ruby is just going to give us an extra copy of food that we don't actually get to keep or have. But I'm sure Rivers is pretty relieved and happy to see Fusia here. And looks like we have Penguin8r going to do a reaction grind up on the moon.
And looks like he does find the proper fight. But Kane almost knocks himself out.
Yeah, the balloons and grenades tried to help him out a little bit, knock out that Rydia 4 out, but he already had the attack queued up, so Kane kind of punched himself there. Looks like Rivers is not interested in trying to get multiple copies of Berserk from doing the Mad Ogre chest, just going to go straight down. And Penguin8r gets quick on the kid.
And we see a Baigan in the first spot. I believe as long as our Fu has some Quake action going on, should not be a problem.
And welcome in Free Enterprise. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for rating. As a quick recap to the seed, we started out with Sid and Rydia. We were given a Magma Key immediately. We saw Fu in the Kaipo bed, who we'll have to pick up, but then Fu was also in the hook route. We had Palom up on Mount Hobbs, and Kane in the Baron Inn. We had an Edge at the package.
And we are through Baigan.
River's going to do a quick save before going to see which exact moon boss he has to fight here. It could be anybody.
And it is just a pale dim, which of all the lunar bosses it could be, this is one of the less threatening.
Yeah, the only thing you might want to see before, other than this, would be a plague here. And Penguin are doing another crack at this evil wall. And the evil wall, still evil. Punching pretty hard, knocking Rosa out in one shot.
And our Fu looks like he does have nuke, so definitely going to be a quick fight on River's Seed.
Yeah, gonna be a quick fight here, and also gonna accelerate him down into the underworld too once he gets to this evil wall and actually takes it on rather than just peeking it. That nuke is gonna do a lot of work against evil wall that the kid's Quakes just isn't able to do yet. And get Cooped in chat asking whether this is one and done like the previous rounds or if we've changed form. We have indeed changed both this round and the next round, or throughout the rest of the tournament. It will be best 2 of 3.
And Rivers has defeated Pale Dim and will complete objective number 5.
And Penguin8r in a bit of a spot here.
And unfortunately does take a wipe to Evil Wall.
Yeah, that's going to hurt a lot. I'm sure at this point now he's starting to feel very, very behind.
And Rivers is getting on his Falcon with his Moon Man. At this point, where do you go if you were Rivers?
I might go straight up the tower, but it looks like he's not going to do that. He's probably going to go take out that evil wall. Might not want to fight the moon boss that's sitting at the top of the tower, because that will be a little bit slow. Or if you get the extra XP from doing the first 2 fights in Dwarf Castle, could definitely help accelerate that a little bit.
Yeah, when you have a 1/3 chance of it being Wyvern, you don't always want to mess with that.
Yeah, especially at a place where he's not going to kill himself, or where Wyvern won't kill itself. And that spot's just kind of slow, has a lot of HP, does not do a whole lot of magic damage, so it's kind of awkward. And Vivalis, though, that Penguin8r finds in the tower key room is a very easy fight there for her. Val does not get a whole lot of HP there or defense.
And that's just another nasty boss off the table. I mean, we really have only seen one of our free bosses so far, so quite a few of them left.
Yeah, we might not need to see too much of a grind either if, say, the Kaipo guards are sitting up there at the Crystal Sword altar, and if the runners are able to get the 10 key items before doing that check.
And Rivers has taken down this wall. And we'll see who the second boss here at Dwarf Castle is. And it is another boss in a low magic spot that is going to be very easy to take down with Edge with that mute knife.
Yeah, I admit I'm not even sure Edge would need the mute knife here. There's only about 3,000 hit points shared between the entire spots. But uses the mute knife, immediately takes out Cindy, has queued up a Quake to take out the other two.
Meanwhile, penguin8r showing us that the lunar boss here at the top of tower is Plague, so kind of a long fight, but not all that threatening.
Yeah, with Rosa knowing Berserk, this is definitely a free fight. And Fu makes the earth move under the sisters' feet and they all fall down. And we'll soon get our key item check to see what Luca is wearing around her neck in the latest of Dwarven fashion accessory.
Well, seeing as how she lost her toy wall earlier, it should be an interesting thing to see.
It's a decorative spoon.
And with that spoon, that puts Rivers at 10 key items.
Yeah, so he will have double experience points for every fight going on throughout the rest of the seed. I wonder if he's going to go maybe into Lower Babel and steal a couple of sirens to do some very quick grinding, or if he's just going to not bother too much.
Looks like he is going to take on that Ashura and kind of have revenge.
Yeah, with Fu and with Rosa now having Blink and Edge already having the mute knife equipped, which could have been why he took the time in that Dwarf Castle fight to equip the mute knife anyway, since he knew he was going to want to have Edge having it in this fight if he was going to come here immediately after.
Like we said at the beginning of this race, these are two very high-level players, so they're always thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead.
Or if they're not, they're very good at giving us the impression that they did. But they both definitely react very well to what's going on around them and make good choices.
And Rivers having the knowledge that the Star Veil typically lasts longer than a cast wall kind of sets off a reaction so that the Star Veil goes on to Asura rather than the cast wall. I liked that play. It was nice.
Yeah, it was. And it was some really great turn economy, too. A lot of times we'll see runners use the Star Veil twice on the same person, which means they have to kind of cycle around their party, where he got to take advantage of that Fu was going before Kane, who's Bobby in his party, and throw a wall up on Bobby, and then let Bobby reflect the Star Veil off, and then have Rosa immediately Berserk Edge, and really just kind of save probably 15-20 seconds or more on that fight.
It only gets a heroine robe for his troubles, though.
Yeah, it's a really great piece of gear for Rosa or any of the ladies in the party who want to turn into actual full-fledged, wonderful melee characters. And there's the samurai bow too that will help that transformation out with Rosa in case Rivers wants to there. And penguin8r, meanwhile, had gotten the Luca key from the tower key check and is going immediately to there.
And one advantage, again, of having already seen demist is if the key item is something you do not need, you can immediately reset out.
Absolutely. Now, if River seizes this one more time, I think we have to ban him. No bans required, though. Going to do the twin harp check.
And we only see an adamant there in Luca, not required.
Yeah, not required. Don't have the legend sword yet either to make it kind of reasonable to go check out the Kukol shop. So penguin8r just kind of resets out, just says, I don't need this. And if you are new to the randomizers, one of the things that we've been talking about with music is that we do randomize what song Edward plays on the twin harp. So when Rivers gets into this fight and gets somehow past the first form of Dark Elf, we'll cut to Edward. He'll come out and start playing a brand new tune, at which point Alicel and I will kind of be quiet for a little bit to let everyone enjoy it.
And he uses a kamikaze on the only character who is not kind of magnetized. And at this point, we are both going to kind of hush.
And Rivers is through that fairly free fight with the Kaipo guards and picks up an Earth Crystal. We've got a little bit of vanilla here for.
And we'll see if he goes ahead and checks that or if he kind of fades that for now.
He might be willing to at least go check the Troya Treasury. He's kind of still doesn't have anything particularly great for Kane, who's still swinging an Ice Brand. And penguin8r, while we were watching Rivers do the Twin Harp, did defeat the Calbranadals and got a Crystal Ring from them, which is a very nice piece of gear, but just not the progression penguin8r's looking for.
And he is going to take another crack at that wall, but even if he gets through, we'll only be getting a spoon.
We've seen a couple of nice shirts so far in that Gungear as well, and a ribbon too, out of this treasury. I saw a sorcerer robe as well as that power robe, and a charm rod is excellent, and dragoon armor too. If we have to fight a gauntlet up on the
And Rivers picks up the meme spear, spending a little bit of time fighting the inventory boss.
and warping out means he's probably actually going to go up Zot and do the key item check there. Also, will be kind of nice to get Rosa exit. And Penguin8r has finally torn down that wall.
And Rivers beelining straight for the check up here, not looking at any of the chests.
Yeah, I think he's probably pretty happy with his gear overall. I mean, you could want an upgrade for Kane, but you're starting to get diminishing returns in trying to find that flame dog for top tier Kane weapon. The Gundyr is probably good enough to go to Zeromus with Kane with.
And we see an octopus up here guarding in the first spot. Another boss you'd rather see here than up on the moon.
Yeah, on the moon, this can be a fight of attrition, just kind of wear down the legs a little bit so that the Octomam slows down long enough. But here, it's just kind of take a few punches and then throw lit 3 and say goodbye Octomam. And Penguiners, through his Mega Sisters fight at Dwarf Castle, will soon be picking up a spoon.
And we see another edge here on this Tower of Zot. And another sit.
Yeah, so far, not taking the hook route has really kind of hurt Penguin8r a good bit. Still not having that Fusuya, that has definitely helped Rivers probably pick up 10 to 15 seconds on most of these boss fights, which is going to add up over the long term.
And only a very non-threatening Bahamut here on the top of Tower of Zot. And Rivers takes the time to kind of reorganize his inventory.
And Penguin8r picking up and using a Charm Claw, or equipping Edge with a Charm Claw, and going into the Baron Weapon Shop, which I think was where we had Ogre Axes. We might be seeing a Mech Giant grind out of Penguin8r. Or not.
And only a Legend Sword in Zot.
Yeah, and Simbu in chat pointing out that a Mech Giant grind seems like a bad idea in his opinion, and I would mostly agree that it does not seem like the best option for Penguin8r this time to kind of accelerate anything. But it might be what he's doing, because there he goes to the Giant.
And I wonder if Rivers is hoping to find the Sand Ruby on Earth so he doesn't have to, so he can just go straight to the Crystal Altar and then go straight to Zeromus, rather than having to try and figure out where to go next, if he's going to use the pass if he finds it, or if he's going to stay there up on the moon.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's what's going through his mind, that or just wanting to make sure you full clear the Earth and don't leave behind an easy check. We have seen a number of times in this tournament that going to do what is required is often very, very helpful, and neither runner has taken that lesson quite to heart yet in the seed. But they both by me playing to not throw the seed away to their opponent. And Zarabora in chat asking if both runners have done Baron Castle. They have indeed, and Rivers has also cleared out the Odin spot. Yeah, so for people who are not familiar with the Mac Giant grind, penguin8r is looking for this fight with a single searcher, which when he hits that searcher, it will summon a 1 Mac Giant, which is both a giant and a machine. So Edge with that Charm Claw will do extra bonus damage to it, because the Charm Claw does bonus damage to giants. They have about 8,000 hit points, and they hit very, very hard, which is why we're seeing Rosa throw out blinks on everybody. Or at least on a couple of important people. And PK is correct. The Thunderclaw would also do the bonus damage, but I don't think either runner has seen one yet.
And Palom throwing out that cure, or that life, just a minute too soon.
Yeah, it feels bad to not get the double credit that throwing out a life on a dying enemy gives you. Final Fantasy IV, most of the enemies, in fact I think all of the enemies, have a 0 vitality stat. So if they die and you throw a life potion, they do come back to life very, very briefly, and then they immediately die again because they have no HP, which will give you double experience because you do get credit for that kill.
And does get the double life there on the second one.
Yeah, that will definitely make up for the one that was missed earlier. Now, looking ahead, do you think penguin8r does some of the moon after this, or do you think he does the hook route and then goes and takes out that antlion?
I think both of our runners are really trying to avoid the moon as much as possible so they don't have to go up multiple times. So I could see him going and doing the hook route just because it is required.
Yeah, and then it would put you in a good position to have the levels and HP necessary to defeat that antlion at the Leviathan spot. And Get Cooped in chat asked why you would do Mac Giant instead of D Machine, and chat has already answered, but just for the people who might be watching this later on a video, you would do that because you don't have access to Weak yet. So he does have access to some strong against giant type weapons, and so is able to get a similar amount of XP per kill. It's not quite the same, or it's not quite worth the same effort. But it's a similar amount of kind of bang for your buck in terms of killing enemies that are repeatedly summonable. A very large facet of both grinds is the ability to take a character from a low level, like the Rydia that penguin8r has, and apply all of the slingshot experience points that you can get to them in one single fight.
And it looks like penguin8r is finished with his grind here and does get nuke on his Rydia, as well as pretty much everything you would want for your Rosa. And just short on his Palom for nuke.
And gets an Ogre Axe. So that took just about the time to do that it took Rivers to complete the tower. So we'll see what Rivers does when he gets his chance to have an Adamant, and then since he did pick up the Legend Sword out of Earth, we'll see if that gives him any incentive to keep it, or if he just resets it.
And it looks like he has no interest in that Kakol shop, and knows that the last spot available to him on Earth is that Leviathan spot.
Yeah, and Nerdicris Speed asking if Demus has been spotted. Indeed, Demus was spotted and found in the bottom of Antlion Cave. It'll be interesting to see if penguin8r does check that Twin Harp, because that ended up being a pretty significant time sink for Rivers that did not pay out. See if those extra levels from penguin8r help him on the moon. I imagine he will decide that if it is behind the Twin Harp, that he is willing to lose the race based on that, since he did do that demon. And he finally picks up his Fusoya.
And maybe feeling a little bit bad about this, knowing that it was available so early to him.
Ascenic in chat asking if this is two people competing on a speed run. It is pretty much. This is Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, which is a randomizer created by Boardface, and that riversmccown, who is one of the runners in this particular match, has a lot of input in terms of game direction and design. And so this is one of the round of 8 matches in the Fabul Gauntlet tournament, our first 1v1 tournament, where both runners are playing the same seed and are trying to complete it faster than the other.
And with one quake, we see those dolls melt.
Yeah, the extra power of Fusoya over a lower level Palom definitely helped Rivers there. He was able to get through with just one quake and not using the hourglass.
And looks like Rivers does want to keep that crystal ring and goes back to save.
Yeah, loading up on Edge and Fusoya with the extra protective gear. The Protect Ring has very excellent defensive properties as well as that crystal ring. So this looks like it's going to be an attempt at that Antlion.
And Rosa immediately gets sniped.
Yeah, this is one of the highest attack spots in the game, and Antlion mostly punches and does counters with a kind of based on melee attack, but only one spell power, or one multiplier counter attack that you see there from any punches that you give to Antlion. So imagine we'll be seeing a lot of cures and a lot of blinks out of Fu and Rosa for this fight.
And we do see penguin8r taking on his pale dim fight. He will shortly be picking up his falcon and will complete objective number 5.
And evening up the runner's objectives count. And West611 in chat asking if this spot has a lot of HP too. It does. It has somewhere around 35,000 if I remember correctly, which is a noticeable bump over the service spot. But I think Rivers has mostly weathered the storm and should be getting through pretty soon.
Yeah, he is pretty close to that 35,000 mark. 1 or 2 more nukes ought to do it.
And there is a dead Antlion. And a Drain Spear.
Youch.
Well, Rosa did pick up Cure 4 out of that fight, so it's at least worth something. And Penguin are going to take his levels that he picked up at doing those Mech Giants and go immediately to check out that Antlion to pick up his Drain Spear. I imagine we'll see him reset out of it, though.
And with the Earth complete, Rivers is now heading to the moon. If you were him, what spot do you check first?
I go check the spot that I know I need to do. I would go immediately to the Crystal Sword altar and see if that has my Sand Ruby also. And then after that, I would go down to the 7th floor to kind of take out that normal progression. I would use more of the Demarine routing up here than a normal bottom to bottom up route. Now, if you're Rivers, Alicefield, and you have just done all of the Earth but are still missing an objective and don't have that Sand Ruby, are you a little bit worried?
I'd be pretty terrified, especially with how easy it was to get that Darkness Crystal. I would assume that my opponent has been kind of working this out the whole time.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if both runners are kind of looking over their shoulder for the dot done in the SRL chat.
And it may be a case of both runners kind of trying to out-meta each other.
Yeah, both runners know each other very well. They're friends outside of these races too, so they definitely know each other's kind of strengths and weaknesses, and predilections for what kind of teams they like to put together and what routing they like to do. So I would not be surprised at all if they are both kind of comparing where they think their opponent might be going and trying to go somewhere different.
But like you said, River's heading straight down. We'll see if he goes for the crystal altar or if he just goes down to 7 here in a minute.
And one thing about an all-mage party, or nearly all-mage party like penguin8r has, they're awfully squishy, and this antlion hits awfully hard. So even for all his extra levels, penguin8r is struggling a little bit more with this fight than I feel that Rivers did.
And we see a Mylon Z here at the crystal altar, or the crystal sword altar. Not particularly threatening. Good old Nuke and White will kind of take him out.
Yeah, it does hit pretty hard here, although like even front Kane with some pretty good weaponry or defensive gear on still takes almost over half his health and damage there. But this spot doesn't have too terribly much HP since this is Wyvern's normal spot, and the game does actually expect you to be Wyvern at some point. So there's not a lot of hit points here to chew through. Earth Crystal was hiding behind the Twin Harp Group.
And we see penguin8r heading to the lunar whale. It looks like he may be heading to the moon as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he is assuming that if it's behind Twin Harp, he is very willing to lose. So this means it's going to be a very close race again.
And Rivers picks up the pass from the crystal altar, which is a very nice pickup because he does have to go down with that sand ruby.
Yeah, both runners will be required to go back down to Earth to clear objective number 2, and so now they know now Rivers at least knows he doesn't have to come back to the moon. So we'll definitely see a full clear of the moon no matter what else is here. Although I believe there's no possible other chain item. We have to have the Sand Ruby in one of the locations here in the Lunar Subterrane or in Value Cave and Cave Bahamut.
Now, I know some people have pointed out we still have not seen that alt Gauntlet yet. At this point, do you go ahead and fight it, or do you fade it?
I probably fade it, although the spot that Rivers is in now, the D-Lunar spot, is the one place I would think about doing it, because this is 2 key item checks possible here. I'm definitely happy to see elements here over the Gauntlet. River's doing a nice job showing off the reflex strats. Elements do have reaction scripts to where they kind of flip through all the 4 bosses within the thing. But if you are able to deal enough damage to defeat the entire encounter of the first half, which is Mylon Z into Rubicon, then you don't have to fight the second half at all.
Well, and the elements have some really wonky absorptions when they switch forms, so this is definitely the safest way to go about it.
Yeah, pretty much each boss is, except for Valvalis, is only weak to one thing and absorbs most of the other elements. So you can accidentally heal them if you kind of mistime your spells.
And there is the Sand Ruby.
Yeah, that is go for Rivers. He doesn't have quite the levels that penguin8r does, and doesn't have Bacchus Wines to call on for Berserk. So penguin8r still definitely has a chance, although the amount that he has dims as he takes longer to beat any fight. Yeah, Simbu in chat asking pretty much the most important question right now is, does Rivers have the levels?
His Rosa knows Cure 4, and hopefully that'll be enough.
penguin8r slowed down just a little bit by a pass, and the citizens of Kaipo doing their darndest to slow Rivers down as well.
And there is the crystal for Rivers.
Yes, I'm always impressed by the promptness at which the Guiding Way delivery service does hand you the crystal once you've completed all 5 objectives.
And it looks like Rivers, feeling confident with what he has, is going to head on to Troya.
Yeah, and since he had taken the Falcon to do the Twin Harp, is forced to park the Lunar Whale at the faraway parking spots because all the other spots are filled, and has to walk a little bit farther than normal.
And looking at his levels, he is quite a bit lower, but is a very experienced runner. Has probably done many a low-level Zeromus fight.
Yeah, and as PK noticed, that is some decent gear that was equipped on Rosa that he picked up in the Troya Treasury. The ribbon and sorcerer robe definitely will boost her magic defense a bit, and maybe make that 1800 HP enough for her to survive big bangs.
But now we have a question to ask for our Zeromus fight. Would you like to do the honor?
Sure. Zeromus is a little bit too much for us to move around in the randomizer at all. So what we do is we give Zeromus a number of different faces, and actually a number of different butts. So chat, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? I believe we have about 450 possible Zeromus sprites it is, thanks to both Boardface and Scala Kitty, who have given us a plethora of different sprites from different video games, as well as other random spots that you might not expect.
And the crystal has been thrown. And we'll see what his true colors are tonight. And it looks like it's just a little teeny tiny butt for tonight with Astomus.
And looks like we're going to get some Berserks going real soon. That's going to be most of River's strategy here, is to get Kane and Edge Berserked up, so they go and hit it Zeromus as fast as possible. and penguin8r has now completed his objectives and is flying his Falcon directly over. About a minute or so behind, I think, Rivers, in terms of getting into the fight, maybe a minute and a half. But he should have a slightly faster around this fight with the extra levels, as well as with the ability to do reflex strats to not have Zeromus refill anything. So this is going to come down to the wire, I think.
And at these levels, Rivers can still have a real nasty roll from Zeromus, so nothing is guaranteed at this point.
Yeah, and Rivers using a Star Veil on Sid to kind of let Zeromus cast some nukes against his face and bounce back to Zeromus. That Star Veil's, that whole reflecting them off strategy is very important because Zeromus would counter any directly cast magic on him with another nuke, but bouncing him off of a Star Veil means that Zeromus doesn't counter him. It's kind of helping Rivers push a little bit faster throughout the fight. We'll see something very similar from penguin8r, except that it's going to just be reflected white and nuke spells from everybody, I believe, and he'll probably throw the spoon with edge.
And a casual 10,000 damage with that spoon.
Yeah, it definitely reveals why Tella calls Edward a spoony bard, because Edward definitely did some damage to Tella's family. Yeah, penguin8r throwing out some very, very big numbers on all those nukes. Catching up to Rivers in terms of total damage dealt pretty quickly.
And down goes his Rosa.
Yeah, there might need to be a little bit of a scramble to get everything going again. That's a nice black hole. We know we didn't go from Big Bang straight into Meteor there, which definitely helps Rivers a lot in terms of not wiping here. But man, this fight is going very smoothly for penguin8r, doing a lot of damage.
And we see rocks on River's side.
Yeah, so we might see a direct cast nuke here pretty soon from Fu too. And that is a...
Go ahead.
Oh, that is a flash and a crack boom from penguin8r. That is GG's penguin8r, taking round 1 in this match. It looks like followed closely by riversmccown, and I think we're going to get both runners in here for this race that looks like it's decided by just 13 seconds. GG's to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Y'all are trying to give me a heart attack over here.
We both had our own, I think.
It sounds like from what we said to each other at the RC chat that we both gave each other like a dumb ache. We both just kept doing dumb things over and over again.
Yeah, I kind of felt behind. I did Evil Wall twice when I shouldn't have and wiped. So I felt behind from that, and I was gambling on the foo not being at the hook spot, and of course the foo was there, so then felt really behind at that point. Figured I could maybe do an antlion at Leviathan to try to catch up if that happened to have the Sand Ruby, but nope.
Yeah, I was there too. It did not have the Sand Ruby. I remember that much.
No, that was some good Drain Spear hype from that evil antlion at Leviathan. And everyone, Penguin8r, loved actually seeing a Mech Giant grind. That was actually ended up being the decisive thing, giving you all the levels with your Mage party.
I mean, I don't know if it's really better than stealing Sirens in that scenario. Was kind of expecting Foo to show up. I knew he was there in the bed. So if I found the Sand Ruby earlier, we would have had him, so we would have had more options. But at that point, kind of felt like I needed to go to the moon, and not having Foo yet, I needed levels, really. So Mech Giant was the best option at that point, I think.
And had you been planning to slingshot Rydia from pretty much the beginning of the seed?
I wasn't 100% committed, but definitely wanted to. I feel like with that party, Rydia wasn't going to do a whole lot with levels. Palam's pretty much a better black mage in all situations in the early to mid game, so no real point to give Rydia levels. So keep her low, she can anchor, she can slingshot.
And both of you had faded even checking the hook character until you were ready to actually go do the hook route. Was that intentional? Even though you had seen Foo in the bed?
Definitely for me. We do these C7 seeds and then we go in brackets, and we get a full party within like 20 minutes. So it felt like there's like one extra character, fairly low chance that it's even anyone new to my party, so didn't really want to go to that hook. Was fine with the early party, especially with Edge coming out of the package.
Yeah, the odds were really against that being a Foo at that point in my mind as well. And eventually I came around there just because after picking up the Pan in the Darkness, I was like, well, if it is a Foo, I gotta grab him now, right? Otherwise I'm way behind. And turned out that was a correct play. I wish it had led me down a gigantic rabbit hole of bad plays, but that's just kind of what happens sometimes in a randomizer.
Yeah, how did you feel getting that vanilla Earth Crystal from the Twin Heart?
You just love to see it. You just love to see it. You think, oh man, there's a chain here. Chain's going to lead me somewhere good. And if that Legend Sword was a Sand Ruby, I'd probably win by 20 minutes. But it wasn't. Definitely was not.
Alicil, do you have any questions for either runner?
Are you looking to change your strategies after this match?
It'll definitely depend on watching back the race. Of course, I haven't had a chance to see exactly what Rivers did yet. And don't want to reveal too much either, A lot of ball game left, as Rivers likes to say.
Yeah, my strategy, what I'm going to do is do the checks that work instead of the checks that don't. I feel like that'll be more effective in the long run, and that's what we need to get back in this series.
Well, GG's to both of you. Very nicely done. You put on a great race for chat.
Thanks.
Yeah, any final thoughts from either of you tonight?
GG Rivers. This was by far at least my closest race, if not one of the closest races in this tournament. And yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, this was really fun. I was the entire time that I was just like making bad check after bad check. I'm like, well, surely Penguin will dot done by now. Surely he will get. When I got to the center, I'm like, surely I'll see that dot done in the next minute. And I just kept getting my hopes up and up and up and up, and then crash at 13 seconds. I saw the meteor, and then I saw the dot done.
Rocks fall, rivers dream dies.
Has company. But thanks for everybody for doing the restream. Really glad we can continue bringing some good stuff to RPG Limit Break. And obviously, we got Game 2 coming up on Friday. I think is going to be a free enterprise one. So make sure to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a hype and much enjoyed race, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to all the races this week. But at this point, do you have anything else tonight, Antidale?
I don't think so. I think we're trying to find a raid target. And it looks like we might actually just be doing a sign-off. It is kind of late for everybody. So thank you all for watching, and thanks both to Rivers and penguin8r for a great show and coming in and talking with us afterwards. And thank you both to Crimson Avix, who is our restreamer, and Gambit017, who is our tracker this evening. And thank you for commentating with me, Alicil. It's always a pleasure. Thank you all for watching, and hope you have a great evening.
Y'all have a great night. Thank you so much.